If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is Cashing Out on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Hour number 3 of Cashing Out right here on VSiN, the sports betting network, and we've got ourselves a tremendous hour for you as we're going to be joined in about 30 minutes by Scott Spreitzer. He does an absolutely tremendous job over at DocSports.com, taking a look at all things, whether it's some baseball. He does a tremendous job on the basketball front as well. We're going to be talking about what he's all going to be betting on, what he's all liking on the card. As I know that he's got a few plays out there. I know that he's going to be taking a look at that Rangers game that I was breaking down a little bit earlier on. So if you missed that a little bit earlier in the show, we're going to be hitting that one with him. And then additionally, we're going to be taking a look at what we've all got in the playoffs, as we've got ourselves some nice NHL playoff action. We've got ourselves some tremendous NBA playoff action as well. And we're starting to see a little bit of line movement with regards to those games that got set here on Tuesday, because we did see out there in the Eastern Conference with regards to the finals in the NHL, the Florida Panthers be able to get that 5-2 win. So they take game number 1. They take a 1-0 lead. And for the Carolina Hurricanes, they're pretty much the same money line that they were in game number 1. Right now, they're opening up in that neighborhood about -125, -130. That's where they close in terms of game number 1. So I do think that that's going to be interesting to take a look at. That flat total of 5.5. We're starting to see that as well. But in terms of the NBA, seeing a little bit more movement with regards to the Western Conference Finals with the big win that you saw from the OKC Thunder, 114-88, where they just pulled away in the second half. Like for the OKC Thunder, just plain and simply, they were cold in the first half. They only scored 44 points. And then second half, 70-point explosion. 8 of 13 from three-point range. Absolutely tremendous. And for the Minnesota Timberwolves, what I thought was very key in this game, the guys coming off the bench, Nickeil Alexander-Walker and company, just not being able to hit their threes. Like Julius Randle came to play. He was able to give you some really nice three-point shooting, but guys not named Julius Randle just did not have a big game in general, as Randle was able to go 5 of his first 6 from three-point range. But for the OKC Thunder right now, they're finding themselves as between 7.5 and 8-point favorites in terms of game number 2. In game 1, they closed as a 7-point favorite. So if you're looking at the zigzag theory, might be a little bit of value on the Timberwolves, but we saw the way that they match up in game number 1. Solid first half, not so much in the second half. And what else I thought was very striking in that game number 1 as well, Rudy Gobert only played 21 minutes. He was very, very limited in this game. I think that that's the best way of being able to put it. Just not great matchups in general. And it's always interesting to see Rudy Gobert in these playoffs as well, because it feels like he's always so hit or miss. He's either really, really good in a series, but you get that bad matchup, he's absolutely terrible. And there's not a lot of in between there. So we've got ourselves a lot that is going on that front. And then if you're taking a look at this Pacers versus New York Knicks game, personally, I don't have a bet on this pregame, but what I am going to be taking a look at is this game live, because what I'm taking a look at in terms of this Pacers versus Knicks game for Wednesday is how is the tempo going to be played. Right now, this total is 224 to 224.5, and the Knicks, they're between a 4 to a 4.5 point favorite. If this game is slowed down, if this game is a little bit more of a slog, I think that very much favors the New York Knicks being able to get the win and being able to get the cover. Meanwhile, a more up-tempo and a more fast-paced game, I think that plays right in the hands of the Indiana Pacers. Pacers, one of the highest octane offenses that you're going to be finding in the NBA. Meanwhile, it's a New York Knicks team that has really done a nice job with Karl Anthony Towns and company, Jalen Brunson, just being able to get things working in general. So I do think that that's going to be a very interesting dynamic. And if the Knicks can get this game slowed down a little bit more, I think that they cover. If the Pacers can get this into a track meet, I like their chances as well. So that's one that I'm going to be taking a look at a little bit more in game, because you just never know what you're going to be able to get in terms of these playoffs. And I always just believe that in terms of NBA playoff action in general, that you're going to get a lot of runs, you're going to get a lot of volatility. And instead of just taking some sort of a pre-flop number, wait for something to come in game, because a lot of times you're going to be able to find value on both teams at some point during the game as well. I always always make the joke that whenever you bet on the NBA and especially in the playoffs, the team that you bet on is going to be up or down 15 points at any point of the game, sometimes in the same half. And we have certainly seen quite a bit of that here in the NBA playoffs. Looking no further than the New York Knicks previous series against the Celtics, where they come back from 20 plus down in 2 straight games to be able to take that series. So we've got ourselves a very good NBA playoff slate that is going to be happening on Wednesday. And how about if we do take a look at this baseball slate as well, because we've got ourselves a lot of teams that are going to be in action. We've got ourselves a lot of fun to be at, and I think that this is one of the more interesting games on the card in general, to say the least, as we head out there to the American League. This is the Houston Astros taking on the Tampa Bay Rays, with Hunter Brown going for the Astros and Taj Bradley on the bump for the Rays. And right now, the Houston Astros are right around about minus 128, minus 135 favorites. Total in a lot of places open up at a 9. This is all going down to an 8.5. I actually broke this down a few hours ago when this was pretty much a 9 across the board. Those are starting to dry up. So if you want a 9, you probably want to take it right now, because I don't know how long that's going to be waiting out there, because I don't know why this total opened up at a 9. You've got one of the best pitchers in all baseball in Hunter Brown, who has been so rock solid. A sub-150 ERA, giving up 5 runs in total over the course of his last 5 starts. His strikeouts per 9 rate is north of 9.5. He's really been able to cut down on the walks that were really the bane of his existence towards the beginning part of his career. And for Taj Bradley, is he a great pitcher? No, he's not, but he does get to go up against a Astros lineup that has been shaky, to say the least. You've got Yordan Alvarez, who's currently on the injured list, and even when he was out there, he wasn't really doing a whole heck of a lot. And Jose Altuve, just not the guy that he was a few seasons ago. He's now down to hitting about a 240, has not really been able to give you a lot of pop. And for the Astros in general, you just don't have a lot of guys that draw walks. Christian Walker has been a little bit of a disappointment for the team thus far this season. And for the Rays, even though Taj Bradley has not been great this year with that 4.80 ERA, 4.70 fielding dependent, you still have a bullpen that is really able to make some match. The likes of Eric Orze, Pete Fairbanks, these guys, they're able to come in and give you multiple innings like a Garrett Clevenger. They've all been able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA. And for the Astros, you've got the Bryans, Brian King, Brian Abreu, who've been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Caleb Ort has been a relatively good find. And then Josh Hader just continues to be the Josh Hader that we all know and love for the Astros. I'd be willing to lay up to about a minus 140 on this money line. I'm right now seeing that at between minus 128, minus 135. I think that there's good value there. And I do think that there's some pretty rock solid value on the under as well. I did set my total more around a 7.9. So, I mean, the fact that you saw this total open up at a 9, I thought was very surprising. And even if you're only getting an 8.5, still think that you've got some good value there. What else you've got value on is take a look at what we're going to be getting in terms of this American League game, as we've got the Rangers and the Yankees doing battle. As we're going to be talking about this game a little bit more with Scott Spreitzer in about, we're going to call it about 20 or so minutes. So we're going to keep this one a little bit more brief. But that said, we've got ourselves Ryan Yarbrough against Jacob deGrom, and you're getting Jacob deGrom right around even money to minus 105 against Ryan Yarbrough, with a total in most places at a 7.5, starting to shade down to the under a little bit as well. And I mean, when you are able to give me a pitching matchup like Jacob deGrom versus Ryan Yarbrough, and I'm able to get even money on Jacob deGrom, I'm just going to take that every time. Like with Ryan Yarbrough, the ERA is a 3.70, but that fielding independence is a 4.95. You look at those under the hood numbers, and he's been giving up 3.7 walks per 9 innings, 1.3 home runs allowed per 9. I think that regression is going to be coming from him, and I think that it's going to be coming from relatively hard. And recognize that this Rangers lineup has not been good. They are a bottom 5 team in the big leagues in terms of total runs per game. Wyatt Langford has been able to give you 9 home runs, but outside of Wyatt Langford, not a lot of power with this team. We've got Adolis Garcia, who's just not been able to move the line, and even worse than that, Marcus Semien along with Jock Peterson. Both of these guys hitting below $1.75. You just need to be getting a little bit more there with this New York Yankees team. Obviously, you get that more with Aaron Judge, 15 plus home runs, give you north of a 480 on base. He's been absolutely incredible, but it's not just him. Trent Grisham has been able to give you a home run every about 10 to 11 at-bats. He's doing a nice job being able to find a way on base. Ben Rice has been having himself a nice season as well. So that's a circumstance where with the Texas Rangers, even though they might have the inferior lineup, I think that Jacob deGrom just so much better in this spot. So I do like that over in the spot because I do think that for the Rangers, they're able to get to Ryan Yarbrough. And for Jacob deGrom, he does have a fielding dependent that's nearly a full point higher than his 2.22 ERA. Has given up a few home runs, albeit a lot of those came earlier in the season, but I do think that the Yankees might be able to get to him just a little bit. So I do like that money line of the Texas Rangers, and I do like that over as well, as it is cashing out right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, with myself, Greg Hoops Peterson, holding it down. And this is a game that I find to be very intriguing as well, because we were supposed to get Gavin Williams versus Chris Paddack here today, and for the Twins and the Guardians series, it just appears as though Mother Nature does not want to see these teams play. They have that game suspended on Monday. They are going to be making up that suspended game on Wednesday, as they're going to be finishing that up. And they got the first few innings in there. They were supposed to play on Tuesday. Tuesday gets rained out, so now you're going to have I think it was a September double dip or something like that. But that's it. We're going to be getting the pitching matchup that we were supposed to be getting on Tuesday with Chris Paddack versus Gavin Williams. And the openers on this game, pretty much where this game was when it was taken off the board. Twins are between -110 to a -115, even money, -105. That number on Cleveland, 7.5 being the total. And I do like this total over because this Guardians bullpen that was so good last year, number one in the big leagues in terms of ERA. Emmanuel Clase has not been great. They tried to replace a few bullpen pieces with Paul Sewald. Paul Sewald has been an absolute disaster for this team, and you just have a bunch in general that has been very much what we didn't expect coming into the season. Like Kate Smith, Hunter Gaddis, these guys have been able to do a solid job, but you've had Tim Herron really start to dry up for the team. Joey Cantillo has not really been able to give you a ton, and for Gavin Williams, he's been not able to get a lot of strikeouts. He's been giving up north of 4 walks per 9 innings, which that's par for the course for him. He was doing a lot of that this past season, but that said, for Chris Paddack, comes in really good form. He's been giving up 5 runs over the course of his last 4 starts. So that's an ERA that is a little bit north of 4, and he's given up a little bit too much hard contact this season. But for Cleveland, it's very much a top-heavy lineup, as you've got Jose Ramirez, who's now been able to give you 9+ homers. He's been able to hit above a 275, but you've got not much else around him. Kyle Manzardo has been able to give you 10 home runs, but that said, he's not really able to hit for a lot of average. Stephen Kwan has been nice at the leadoff spot, and Daniel Sheeman towards bottom lineup has been good, but the likes of a Bo Naylor, Nolan Jones, John Kenzie Noel, they've had their issues. Brian Rocchio as well. And for the Twins, they aren't necessarily able to get the deep ball going. I know that they were dealing with Byron Buxton being on the 7-day injury list, but all in all, these guys have been able to do a nice job of just being able to find a way in what has been a really nice streak for the Twins. They've won all but one out of their last 13 games. I don't want to be fading that one in this spot because I do think that they get to the Guardians bullpen, like that over, and the money line of Minnesota. And coming up next, how about if we do anticipate a little bit more baseball for this Wednesday right here on Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Out here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We're back here on Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Coming up in 15 minutes, we're going to be talking with one of our good friends, Scott Spreitzer, if I can get the words out. He's over there at Doc Sports doing an amazing job handicapping a little bit of everything. I know he's got some baseball on the card and so much more, so we're going to be chatting with him, having a good time. And in the meantime, we're having a good time taking a look at the great game of baseball. And by the way, for anyone that might have had a bet on the Dodgers on Tuesday, they were able to get the job done in a walk-off fashion. Very rare one-run win for them, but 4-3 in extra innings, so that was fun, and we'll see if they're going to be able to duplicate that here on Wednesday. But how about if we do dive in on this game, as this is one that involves 2 teams out east in terms of the National League. This is 9:55, 9:56 on the card. The Atlanta Braves, they're on the road. They're facing off against the Washington Nationals, as Trevor Williams is going to be giving you the start for the Nationals, and old A.J. Smith-Schwaber is on the bump for the Atlanta Braves. Just a fun name to say in general. And for Smith-Schwaber and company, you're finding the Braves right around about -153, minus 160 favors, plus 130, plus 140, that number on Washington with a total of 8.5. And I just have trust issues right now with the Washington Nationals, and big reason why they are a very untrustworthy team. The bullpen. That bullpen ERA for the Washington Nationals continues to be hovering right around 6 now. Have they been a little bit better recently? Yeah, they have. Cole Henry has been able to give you some relatively okay innings, and then you got Jackson Rutledge coupled with Kyle Finnegan, who've been able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA, but outside those few guys, you got the likes of Jose Ferrer, a guy like a Lucas Sims, Edward Salazar. These guys have been supplying well north of 5 ERA. Brad Lord is back in the bullpen as well. Not necessarily something that you want to see. And you've got a lot of guys that just have been inconsistent at the plate as well, with Josh Bell along with Dylan Cruz, both hitting below a 200. Now, you've been able to get some good wood out of James Wood. 12 home runs. He's been able to hit for darn near a 370 with regards to that on base. And additionally, you've been able to get relatively good production of CJ Abrams. He had his issues towards back half the season last year. He's been atoning for them. He's been hitting right around about a 300, 8+ home runs. But on the flip side, you've got an Atlanta Braves team that, even though the lineup has been a little bit shaky this year, Matt Olson has been able to do a pretty solid job giving you about 8 home runs. Not hitting for a lot of average, but has been able to give you north of a 340 on base. Additionally, you've been able to get some relatively solid production out of more of the bottom of the lineup. Someone like an Eli White, Nick Allen. These guys stepping up, hitting north of 260 has been solid. You could use a little bit more the likes of Ozzie Albies, Michael Harris. These have been two guys that have just been really disappointing in general, but that said, for the Atlanta Braves, I do think that this bullpen is much better with having the likes of a Desbel Hernandez who's able to come in, hold down the fort, and I do like the fact that for the Atlanta Braves, you've got one of the better closers in all of baseball, and Rossi Iglesias. His stuff is really good. It's been having a little bit of a struggle this year. That said, I do think that with Smith Schwaber giving you north of 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, that said, his issues with the walks, giving up north of 3.5 walks per 9 innings, he's going to be able to give you much more than Trevor Williams will. With Williams, if you look at the fielding independent, it's pointing towards positivity. He's got north of 5 ERA. Fielding independent, that's about a 0.5 point lower, but he just leaves the ball out there over the middle of the plate. He's got some of the, for lack of a better term, least impressive stuff in all baseball, not necessarily that overpowering fastball or anything like that. So I think that that could be a little bit of concern against an Atlanta Braves team that is very much a power hitting team. You wouldn't know it from the way that you've been watching them when they, without Ronald Acuna Jr., but do have quite a few power hitters in that lineup. So it is a circumstance where I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the run line of the Atlanta Braves. You're able to find that run line in a lot of places. Neighbor about a +105, +110. I was willing to lay a number on that Atlanta Braves run line. So going to be taking a look there, and I'm going to be in on this over as well. I did set my total just a hair above an 8.5 and an 8.6, as it is cashing out with myself, Greg Peterson, right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. And if you're looking to bet smarter, you want a VSiN Pro subscription. And if you're looking to save some money on a VSiN Pro subscription, you want to be looking right here, because typically we sell our subscriptions for about $20 a month, but you're able to sign up right now and get 14 months worth of VSiN, and you're able to get it all for $199. So you save $41 off the price, and you go from 14 or 12 months to 14 months just by utilizing the promo code of PRO, P-R-O, when you go to VSiN.com/subscribe. And when you become a VSiN Pro subscriber, you get all the goodies, a daily best bet emails from all of our VSiN show hosts and guests with their bets, real-time betting splits from DraftKings and Circa, 24/7 video access on the VSiN Watch app, plus full access to VSiN.com's analytics, betting trends, expert breakdowns, and so much more. That's over at VSIN.com/subscribe. That promo code, it is VSIN200. So you want to be locking in there, and we do want to be locking in terms of these games that we're going to be seeing on this Baseball Wednesday, as well as we've got all 30 teams in action. We've got a lot of very fascinating games on the board, to say the least. Still undecided as to what the Kansas City Royals are going to be doing with their starter, but it is very much decided as to what we're going to be getting in Mets versus Red Sox. This is a game where the Mets and Tyler McGill do find themselves as pretty good-sized underdogs against the Boston Red Sox, with Garrett Crochet going for them. Crochet and the Red Sox between about -140 to -150 favorites. Going to be finding that neighborhood about +124 to a +130 on the Metropolitans. And the total on this game, it is a flat A with really no G's attached to it. And I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the over. With regards to both of these pitchers, they've both been giving up a few more walks than what you'd like. Garrett Crochet has been able to do a better job with regards to command than McGill. Now, Tyler McGill getting 11.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's also been having his walks issues. Giving up north of 4 walks per 9 innings really doesn't allow a ton of hard contact, which is why he's been able to keep his ERA and his fielding independent relatively low. But for Garrett Crochet, he's doing the exact same. Garrett Crochet only giving up about a half a home run per 9 innings. He's done a nice job of very much being able to take a good approach, and he's been able to keep things out in front of him. And then with regards to this New York Mets lineup, it's been one that has become more and more fearsome as the season went along. First few weeks of the season, you tell that the conditions just weren't great out there in New York, and they needed some warmer weather as the weather has been heating up. You've had Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor heating up. Both of these guys give you 9 home runs apiece. With regards to what you've been able to get out of Alonso, he's been able to give you north of 400 on base as well, so has done a nice job checking that box. Luan Acuna has been able to hit for some average, not really giving you a lot of power though, but you do have some of these guys that are able to mix and match for you. Mark Vientos has been a little bit rough, but overall do like what I'm seeing in terms of that Mets lineup. And then for Boston, Weiler Abreu, Alex Bregman, 11 home runs apiece. These are two guys that you want to be keeping around for quite some time, with having Bregman being able to give you north of a 350 on base, and then Weiler Abreu more in that neighborhood, about 340, 345. Trevor Story has been a little bit of an issue, and you do want to know with the Boston Red Sox, with everything that happened in their game on Tuesday, with Walker Buehler giving a few expletives and getting tossed out of the game early, this is a little bit more of a depleted bullpen, so would probably set him as a scotch bit of more of a favorite than I did initially as a result of that, but I was willing to go up to a minus 138 with regards to money line. Right now I'm seeing a lot of like minus 140 or so would like to see this get down by a few cents, especially with the Red Sox bullpen being a little bit shaky. When you have Aroldis Chapman in your bullpen, you just never know what you're going to get there. Liam Hendricks, I mean, it's a great story in general, the way that he's been able to come back from everything that he's been going through, but you just never know what you're going to be able to get out of him in the bullpen because he hadn't pitched in like multiple years, so that's a little bit of an issue. And Brendan Bernardino, very rock solid in that bullpen, but he had to throw quite a few innings on Tuesday. And then for the New York Mets, this has been a really good team in terms of their long relief bullpen pitching, as Jose Buto has been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. You've been able to get a lot of production, as well as some of these guys like a Dylan Dingler, who's been able to do a nice job of being able to move a line for this team as well. So I do take a look at this spot, and I do think that with regards to the Boston Red Sox, if you can get them at like a minus 138 or so, I'd be taking a look there. Right now it's right around about a minus 140, but I do think that both of these lineups are going to be able to give you some good results here. I did set my total at an 8.3, so you're at the 8. I'm going to be taking a look at the over as well. And when it comes to what you're going to be getting in terms of the interleague games, I was talking about Dylan Dingler for the Detroit Tigers, so lost our trainer thought a little bit there, but in terms of that bullpen game that you're going to be seeing for the Detroit Tigers, it's going to be very fascinating because I do think that they should be the rightful favorite here against the St. Louis Cardinals. With the St. Louis Cardinals, I just don't have a lot of faith in Andre Pallante. As for Pallante, he's right around about a minus 110, minus 118, and it's just a case where I don't trust in him because he's been giving up a lot more hard contact this year than we've seen in past years. And for the Detroit Tigers, they're one of the few teams that you can really trust in with regards to a bullpen game, because you've got Brian Herter, who he was utilized a lot as a bulk guy last season. He's able to be an opener if you need him. This team, they really go into that bullpen madness mode. And for the Detroit Tigers, you've had a lineup that has been much, much better this year. You've had the likes of a Riley Green be able to step up, give you 10 plus home runs this season. You've been able to get a lot of production out of Kerry Carpenter, who's been able to give you 9 home runs as well. And for the St. Louis Cardinals, they've been one of the hottest teams in all of baseball, but I do think that with having Andre Pallante out there, Miles Michaelis is a guy that I think is going to be coming back to earth when you get his turn in the rotation as well. I think that one is one that's not necessarily going to be lasting in general, so I do lean to the Detroit Tigers in that one, especially with a total of 8.5 looking to the over, because I do think that they get to Andre Pallante. I do think that with the Cardinals being about a league average bullpen as well, that's going to be a little bit more suspect for them moving forward. And I do think that for Detroit, this is really a team that's going to be a mainstay in an American League, where if you look at the balance of power in all baseball, you've got an American League where you've got the Yankees, you've got the Detroit Tigers, and then what else do you have? The entire American League West, it's just meh. Like the Seattle Mariners have been leading the division for much of the season, but I don't know if I'm necessarily too big of believers in them. And then I don't know if on the flip side, you can be too much of a believer in terms of what you're going to be getting out of the rest of the teams in that division. The Texas Rangers, they've got good pitching, but they've been one of the worst offenses in all of baseball as well. And it's been interesting to take a look at that Central with what you've been able to get out of the Kansas City Royals as well. So do think that there's a good opportunity here for the Detroit Tigers, and do think that they find a way to be able to get the job done. I like them as a money line favorite, and do like that over. And coming up next, how about if we talk some more baseball and so much more with Scott Spreitzer over at Doc Sports right here on Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back to Cashing Out out here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We're back here on Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Great to be joined by this man on the Progressive Guest Line, as we've got Scott Spreitzer aboard. He does such a tremendous job over at Doc Sports, taking a look at pretty much a little bit of everything. And if you're looking for a little bit more of Scott, you're able to go to VSiN wins to 29022. You're able to grab a free $60 trial of Scott's daily best bets. He does a tremendous job there. So that's 29022. And then you're able to type in VSiN wins to be able to get in on that. And Scott, always great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Hey, I appreciate it, Greg. It's been a while since we were doing some shows at the old joint, and so it's really good to be back on with you, Greg. I enjoy your work, man. You're one of the hardest working guys in the biz, and I've been doing this forever, and so I mean that sincerely.
I appreciate you, Scott, and what else I appreciate is that you put in that work as well, and I know you're taking a look at what we're all getting in the NBA and the MLB. So how about if we start first things first with regards to the NBA, because we've got game number 1 going down between the Pacers and the New York Knicks. Anywhere between 4 and 4.5 is the Knicks being a favorite, and pretty sky high total here for an Eastern Conference final. You're finding that right around about at 224. How do you anticipate this game? Because I was talking about this a little bit before. I'm a little bit more of an in-game NBA bettor, and the way that I view this is if it's a little bit of a slower, drag 'em out game, I think that very much favors the Knicks. Meanwhile, if this game gets going a little bit more up-tempo, I would probably be liking the Pacers a little bit more live.
Yeah, I think it's a smart move in game 1 of these conference finals when we get this deep into the NBA to kind of handle the things like you said you tend to do, being in game and looking and seeing how the pace is and which team is, enforcing their pace. And as far as I'm concerned, I mean, over and over, we saw Boston blow the huge leads in the series with the Knicks. I mean, every game basically, except for the final game. And I really thought, I don't really put a lot of what former players say into handicapping, and it's nothing against them. It's just they don't know handicapping too well, just like I can't go out and score 30 a night. So, but I did like what Paul Pierce was saying middle of this series when he talked about, he thought that the game for Boston, the problems they were having were as much mental as anything else. And I agreed. I've been saying that. I mean, they hoisted up 63 pointers against the Knicks in game 1. They made only 15. The Knicks win by 3 in OT. Give them their credit. But it's like it got in their heads and they started hearing about, don't be shooting all these threes. Well, that's what they've done for a couple years now. That's the roster they built. They won a championship with it last year. So without taking too much credit away from the Knicks and Jalen Brunson, the bottom line is Boston didn't really play their game, I thought, after the first game of the series. You looked at one of the games, game 2, for instance, as a quick example that I'll jump into this series. They averaged 9 3-pointers per quarter, Boston, through the first 3 quarters. That's not Celtic basketball. And they didn't start hoisting the threes in the fourth until the game got close, and they panicked a bit. And I just thought that was just a weird situation that a really good coach has to be able to control. As far as Indiana, they took on a couple of teams in the playoffs that were without star players, but they are number 2 in offensive efficiency, number 1 in assist ratio of these teams in the playoffs, and effective field goal percentage for that matter. True shooting percentage, number 1 also. As far as this series, Indiana comes in 16th out of the 16 teams that made the playoffs in offensive rebound rate at this point of the postseason. If they aren't red hot like they were against the Cavs, their chances, I think, Greg, of getting second or third opportunities are not great. A lot of people are talking about New York's Mitchell Robinson, who missed a ton of action in the regular season. Over the last 4 years, he's always been like an 8 rebounds per game guy. It was less than 6 in his, limited action during the regular season. It's back up to 8 in the playoffs. And I think he's going to be a real big key to this team, keeping Indiana from getting second and third chances. They held Boston to 10 offensive rebounds per game in the final 4 games of the series. This roster was built to beat Boston. And guess what? I think it has a great opportunity to do the same against Indiana because they're big on the wings. And you've got Nembhard and Nesmith, they just made so much of a difference for Indiana. But I think the Knicks can take care of those guys, at least in game 1, before we see adjustments made by the Pacers moving forward.
Yep, I think that that's such a good look, and I think that it's going to be very interesting to see how that Game 1 dynamic plays out as well, because there's so many interesting matchups here, and I want to see how these teams sort of parse things out, because you've got two different dynamics between those two teams, as Scott Spreitzer does great work over at Doc Sports, joining me right here on Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, and on the flip side, we've got a Western Conference final where we saw the OKC Thunder just really take over in that second half. First half was a little bit mundane, only 44 points, and then they put up a 70 spot in the second half. What did you all see from that game number 1? And do you think that they're worth backing in game number 2, or do you think that we might see the zigzag theory come through?
Yeah, I'm not a big zigzag theory guy, but I think I'm probably going to go on Minnesota in game 2. I haven't pulled the trigger yet, so to speak. But, Oklahoma City did what they do. 31-10 points off of turnovers. And really, I was watching that game rather closely in the first half. Julius Randle was almost fool's gold, if you will. And that's nothing against Randle, because he's been great in the postseason. He's been a difference maker, 24 points, 6 boards, 6 assists per game in the postseason. And they had a phenomenal straight up and spread record with Randle in the mix going back a couple of months now since he came back. So I do normally like what Randle could provide to this team, but I thought it was too much Randle and therefore fool's gold when they got into the second half. And then you saw OKC make the adjustments. They went inside a bunch, 54-20. They outscored many in the paint. And again, with all those turnovers, turning them into points, that's what they do. So there's going to be adjustments made. I think you're going to see more of a 1-2-1 zone look out of Minnesota in game 2 to try to slow down SGA a little bit. I think you diversify the points a little bit if you're Minnesota, rather than have Randle shooting 25-footers. Great player. He's been a difference maker in the postseason, but you can't rely on him shooting threes all game long. And we saw what happens when they did, what happened in the second half when OKC started to play their game.
Yeah, we certainly did. And with the OKC Thunder going 8 of 13 from three-point range in the second half, that was pretty massive as well. And what else is pretty big is that we've got all 30 teams in Major League Baseball in action on Wednesday as well. And I know that we've got a few mutual plays. This is one of them. Right now, we've got the Rangers and the New York Yankees, with the Rangers right around even money, -105, total of 7.5. Jacob deGrom going up against Ryan Yarbrough. And I know that this sounds like a very simple handicap, but getting Jacob deGrom right around even money against Ryan Yarbrough, that's just something that calls my name every time.
Yeah, same thing happened to me, and I haven't heard your thoughts on this game yet. But yeah, I mean, if you're on the Rangers, we're looking at the same side here. It's a nice 9-3 run for the Yanks. We had a small play on them tonight, lay on the run line. They've covered 7 of those 9 wins as far as the run line is concerned. But it is Ryan Yarbrough, and he's probably not going to eat up a lot of innings for New York. He's always been a guy who comes out of the pen more than anything else throughout his career. And you hit it on the head with deGrom. I mean, this guy all of a sudden is pitching extremely well. His last 6 starts, he's taken his ERA from 4.3 down to 2.29, and he's really keeping guys off a base. He's punching batters out. And how about this, Greg? One of the things I look at the very first thing I do when I start my capping every night is I like to look at stuff plus and pitching plus, those two metrics, compare the two starting pitchers. Well, you've got a really good stuff plus in deGrom at 107. His pitching plus metric is elite level and then some right now at 126 for the season. That's crazy. That's way ahead of most starting pitchers he's going to go up against. So, and then you look at the Yankees, middle of the pack overall in weighted runs created plus at home the last 10 days. Texas is not bad on the road against Southpaws the last 6 weeks in weighted runs created plus. They're pretty close to what the Yankees have done the last 10 days. You throw in the starting pitchers, the bullpen edge is just slightly in New York's favor. And I think with an even offense in the situation I just mentioned, the starting pitchers, bullpen's not that big of a difference, that the Rangers are worth a play here.
Yep, I think so as well. I'm right there with you on the Rangers. Do like the over as well, because I do think that they get to Ryan Yarbrough. I think that there's a little bit of positivity coming for the Rangers, and this is another one that we both like. We've got the Mariners going up against the White Sox, and somehow, some way, the Mariners get shut out in Adrian Hauser's first start with the Chicago White Sox. He was signed hours before the game, so I don't think that lightning is going to be striking twice. You've got Shane Smith going up against Logan Evans in this one. Take me through why you're on the Seattle Mariners, because I'm right there with you on the run line.
Yeah, I write up this play earlier today and talking about the Mariners and their average runs scored, and then they go out and they get shut out by Chicago. So what are you going to do? But I'm sticking with this play on Wednesday. Again, stuff plus, pitching plus. I love that kind of stuff to start my handicap. Logan Evans is the better of the two. between him and Shane Smith when it comes to stuff plus. Shane Smith a little bit better in pitching plus, but their weighted runs created numbers at home or away against lefties or righties, which is what I look at from these two teams, and those metrics are in the favor, of course, as you would imagine, everybody, of the Seattle Mariners rather than the Chicago White Sox. You got the fifth best team in Major League Baseball on the road against righties when it comes to weighted runs created plus. And the White Sox, as all can imagine, bottom of the league at home against righties, 29th out of 30 teams in weighted runs created plus. And then you add in the last 10 days overall, home and away, still a big advantage for the Mariners, despite what happened on Tuesday night. We have the better pin. I think the Mariners come back and get the win on Wednesday and snap that shutout skid at 1.
Yep, I'm right there with you. With Shane Smith, the ERA is low, but the fielding independent and things like that looking a little bit high. And I'm right there with you, Scott. And Scott, I know that you're doing an incredible job handicapping all these cards day in and day out over at Doc Sports, and really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Enjoyed it, Greg. Take care and best of luck.
Always great to be able to get Scott Spreitzer aboard on the Progressive Guest Line. And to wrap up the show next, we'll give you guys what I'm all betting on the card for Wednesday right here on Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Out here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We're back here for the final segment of the night, right here on Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. First things first, big thanks to Scott Spreitzer for joining me in the last segment, breaking down a little NBA, breaking down some MLB best bets as well. So it was great to be able to get him aboard. And if you're listening live to Cashing Out, you're going to be getting a replay of this fine program. Meanwhile, if you're listening to the replay, we're going to get you guys a great slate coming up for this Wednesday. As it's going to be starting off with VSiN by the books. I know that our good friends Dave Ross along Jensen Lewis are doing an incredible job there. A numbers game with Gil Alexander. You get all the goodies on money moves and so much more. And now it is my chance to be able to give you guys what I like for the day. We're going to try to be able to get you into that great Wednesday slate with a little bit more money in pocket, all safely. And how about it, first things first, we talk a little bit of hockey, because I'm personally not too much of a NHL bettor. I do not have anything with regards to what we're taking a look at in terms of the Eastern and Western Conference Finals. And when you don't have that, you know what? You call upon a great guest. Jason Greger joined me earlier on in the show. He does a tremendous job over at Sports 1440 in Edmonton, and he's got some thoughts with regards to the NHL playoffs and sort of some of the angles that he's looking at moving forward.
Well, yeah, you get up 2-0 on the road, and then the only game they lost was when Dallas scored. Edmonton put it into the
scored in the final second.
4 seconds left. So, the second latest playoff game goal in NHL history. Edmonton really, they started the playoffs not very well. They gave up 6 goals in their first 2 games. They were down 2-0 to LA, and a lot of people were like, oh yeah. But since then they're 8-1, and they've really dominated a lot of those games. So, and not giving up a ton of chances. So if that continues, they're a quicker team than Dallas overall. Now Dallas is a great counter-strike team. They're really good off the rush, and that's something that Edmonton's going to have to be careful of. But, you mentioned Edmonton starts, and their last 2 games, they'll love how they've started. So if they can get off to a good start in Dallas, and the one thing though for Edmonton on the road that's got to get going is their power play. They don't have a power play goal. Funny enough, the Oilers have had the best power play in the league for 5 years, and last year was dominant in the playoffs. But this year they beat Vegas. Won 3 games in Vegas. Vegas never loses 3 games at home. Never mind in one 10-day span. And I look at Edmonton, and if they can get their power play going here, they'll be even much more dangerous than they have been, because going 0 for on the road so far in the playoffs is very odd.
Yep, and it's going to be so interesting to take a look at that Oilers versus Stars series with a Stars team that was really banged up towards the beginning part of the playoffs. If you recall that series against Colorado Avalanche, they've been able to get healthier and healthier as well. I know that that's something that we were talking about a little bit earlier on in the show as well with Mr. Gregor, so we've got a lot of intrigue there with right now the Oilers being slight underdogs in that game number 1 against the Dallas Stars. You're mostly seeing the Stars in that neighborhood about a minus 125 or so in terms of game number 1, and we've got ourselves some fun with regards to the NBA playoffs as well. As with the NBA, I'm much more of an in-game bettor, so I don't have anything pre-game for you, but the way that I'm going to be betting this in-game is it's very simple for me. How is the tempo going to be going in this game? If we see an up and down game, if we see a lot of high scoring, I think that that very much bodes well for the Indiana Pacers. I think that they could be able to get the job done as 4 to 4.5 point underdogs. Right now that total is 224, 224.5. If the New York Knicks are able to get their style, if they're able to get this thing slowed down, it's going to be a simple play for me on the New York Knicks and going to be just a ruckus environment. I don't know if Timothée Chalamet is going to be over there and things like that, but I mean, we saw what was happening in that series against the Boston Celtics, the way that crowd was just absolutely erupting, and it's just really good in general to see Madison Square Garden just absolutely electric the way that it is. I mean, there was a lot more, shall we say, juice returned to the Garden with the way that the St. John's Red Storm were able to play this season as well. I believe that was the first closeout at MSG for the New York Knicks in like this century. I mean, it's been a really, really long time since they've been able to close out a series there. So it's going to be a lot of fun with regards to this series because you've got yourself a classic between the Pacers and the New York Knicks. We all remember those battles with like Patrick Ewing and company, Reggie Miller. So some good, clean family fun there. And that's the way I'm going to be looking at it. If we can get a little bit of a higher scoring up-tempo game, looking at the Pacers, low and slow, that bodes well for the New York Knicks. And what else bodes well for us is taking a look at some baseball. So let's take a look at what I'm all betting on with regards to this baseball slate for Wednesday, and it's all brought to you by G-Bank. Over at G-Bank, you want to sign up for that G-Bank Visa signature card because most credit cards, they treat sportsbook and gaming transactions as cash advances, and that costs you in terms of some big fees. Even when you put your own money on the card, G-Bank treats them like gaming transactions as purchases, so you're able to save up to 3 to 5% on those cash advance fees that typically are less than savory. Also with G-Bank, you're earning 1% cash back on all eligible sportsbook and gaming transactions and 2% cash back on all other rewards purchases that are eligible. Apply now over at VSiN.com/GBank. That is VSIN.com/GBank. And how about if we dive in on a game that we were supposed to get on Tuesday? We were supposed to get another game on Monday. They're going to be wrapping up the game that started on Wednesday, and then the later game on Wednesday is going to be involving the Guardians and the Minnesota Twins with Chris Paddack and Gavin Williams, the expected starters for Tuesday, going on Wednesday. And now a lot of books are starting to restore this line, and it's pretty much where it was taken off the board when this game was postponed on Tuesday. The Twins in that neighborhood about minus 110, minus 115 favorites. Total on this game is 7.5, and very clear for me. I'm going to be looking at the Twins. I'd be willing to go up to minus 130 on this money line. I like the way that Chris Paddack has been able to go out there, give up about 5 total runs over the course of his last 4 starts. Was a very shaky start to the season for him. Not necessarily a high octane swing and miss guy. And for Gavin Williams, he hasn't been able to get a lot of strikeouts either, and he's giving up right around 5 walks per 9 innings. Like, this is a Cleveland Guardians bullpen that last year was so good too. This year they're in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA. Emmanuel Clase has just been completely lost this season. You've had a couple of injuries. Paul Sewald was the guy that they were banking on, which I don't know why they were banking on Paul Sewald. I've never been a stan of his or anything like that. They've been able to have Cade Smith, Hunter Gaddis be good in that bullpen, but right past that, not a lot. And then the bottom of the lineup for the Cleveland Guardians is very much a concern because in the top half with regards to someone like Stephen Kwan hitting above a 300, you've been able to get really good production as well out of Jose Ramirez recently. He's riding a nice hitting streak, so shout out to him. But that said, when you go into the bottom of the lineup and you're looking at a guy like a Brian Rocchio, Bo Naylor, John Kenzie Noel, these guys hitting below the Mendoza line of 200, that just makes it very top heavy. That means that a pitcher is really able to pitch around some of these guys as well. And then for the Minnesota Twins, they've been dealing with Byron Buxton being on the 7-day IL. He had that collision in that series against the Baltimore Orioles, so we're going to get to them in a second. But I mean, even with him out, this team has still been able to generate some nice power with Trevor Larnach being able to step up. Carlos Correa has still been rough for this team this season. He's been hitting below a 240 with regards to his average, not necessarily a lot of power, but you've had some of these more ancillary guys be able to mix and match, be able to step up, and what has been big for the Twins as well. Top 3 team right now in terms of bullpen ERA. Danny Kaluma has yet to allow a run in this bullpen. He has been tremendous, and I still believe that Yohan Duran is one of the best closers that you're going to find in all of baseball. So I do like the Minnesota Twins on the money line, and think that this total's a little bit too low with the way that the Guardians bullpen has been operating, especially with this being, keep in mind, a game that's going to be played after that suspended game. So you've got 6+ innings of bullpen use that is going to be happening out there as well. So I do like this total over, and I do like the Minnesota Twins on the money line. Promised you guys that I would get to the Baltimore Orioles, and it's a dumpster fire right now, and I just can't explain why they're still being priced the way that they are. The Brewers are only -118 to -125 favorites against an Orioles team that's now 15-32, and since they can, their manager, they've won as many games as Greg Peterson, and Greg Peterson does not have an MLB team, so that's not great to say the least. And Tomoyuki Sugano, I mean, while his ERA is right around about a 3.1 for Sugano, he's been posting up a fielding independent of more around a 4.9 because he just gives up a lot of general contact. He only gets 5 strikeouts per 9 innings, 1.5 home runs allowed per 9 innings. Now, Chad Patrick, not necessarily some sort of strikeout artist. He's only been able to get around 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, posting up a nearly 3 ERA as a starter. He had that one long relief appearance against the New York Yankees to begin the season. That was a little bit less than tremendous, but I do think that he's going to be able to go out, give you a nice performance here for the Milwaukee Brewers, and I do think that both of these teams get a little bit of offense generated, despite the fact that for Baltimore, about 3.7 runs per game away from home thus far this season. But I do think that both of these pitchers, with the way that they give up general contact, going to be able to get you to the over. But I do like the Brewers in this spot on the money line. One other play that I really do like for this card as well, I think that you've got a very interesting dynamic with regards to what we're going to be getting out there with a game that we were talking about with Scott Spreitzer, the Rangers and the New York Yankees, just being able to get Jacob deGrom at even money against Ryan Yarbrough. Again, it sounds very simple, but with Ryan Yarbrough, 3.70 ERA, fielding independent that's more than a full point higher than that. You've got a guy in deGrom who's been rounding into form. He's given up 4 runs in his last 4 starts. I think that he finds a way to be able to get the job done here for a Rangers team that's been leaving something to be desired, to say the least, with regards to that offense. And I know that Scott was also talking about that Seattle Mariners run line. That's another one that I am on as well. And I do like that total over as well. I think that Shane Smith is going to be experiencing just a little bit of regression, and we've got ourselves all 30 teams in action in terms of baseball. We've got some NHL playoff action. We've got ourselves some NBA playoff action, and we've got you covered here on VSiN all throughout the day. On Wednesday, it gets started with VSiN by the Books with Jensen Lewis along with Dave Ross. They do a tremendous job there. On Numbers Game with Gil Alexander, that's coming up at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. Money Moves with Stormy and John Von Tobel, that's coming up at noon Eastern Time as well. So we've got you set with a jam-packed day of sports with a jam-packed great schedule right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine, and maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them, from disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.